Hello again, everyone. I'm Dick Stockton, welcoming you to my podcast, cleverly titled Stockton. I hope you're having a great start to spring. And you know, when this time of year rolls around, a lot of people start thinking about golf. I happen to think about golf all the time because I live in Florida and Arizona. And of course, many people do golf year-round, depending on where they live. But for many, spring is the unofficial start to the golf season. Of course, with the Masters coming on this week, and before the grass has a chance to grow back in the divots, suddenly the U.S. Open is upon us, and so on. So let's talk about golf. Raise your hands if you're a devout golfer. I thought so. Raise your hands also if the game frustrates you. Well, for me, a senior golfer with a 16 handicap, I've been frustrated by the game of golf. It's a tough game to play, as we all know. And I've taken a lot of lessons, as you have. And I've looked at instructors on the internet. And you say, well, I think I have it now. And then you go out and play, and you get back to those bad habits. So one day, I got so frustrated, I decided to Google the easiest golf swing. What would come up? And believe it or not, something did come up. There's a pro. He's in his 60s, in England, Kent, on the coast, named Brian Sparks. Brian Sparks. And he came up with a video, which I watched over and over again. He does not speak at all during this video. He just takes practice swings with the pitching wedge, the 7-iron, and then the driver. It's the same swing, and none of it has to do with mechanics. It made the game fun for me once again. I really believe in this, and I thought it would be great to have him, especially now as we get to the golf season, to talk about what his philosophy is all about. He's unlike any teacher that I have looked at. But before we get to Brian, I want to remind you that you can always reach out to me with an email at info@stocktonpodcast.com. Again, info@stocktonpodcast.com. Send me a note and let me know what's on your mind. We've already got a few emails, so many, in fact, that we're going to dedicate a future podcast to answering those emails. So get yours to me because I want to hear from you. Also, a reminder to go to iTunes and subscribe to the Stockton podcast. Don't worry, it doesn't cost a thing, but we'll ensure that you'll always get the latest podcast as soon as it's posted. And be sure to leave a review because your opinion does matter. And of course, you can always find us at StocktonPodcast.com or through Facebook and Twitter. Now, a moment ago, I mentioned the Masters, and obviously you may know by now that former Masters champion, 4 times at that, Tiger Woods, will not be playing in the tournament this year because of continued back spasms. Later in this podcast, I'm going to share my thoughts on what that all means in my Taking Stock segment. But now it's time to get your swing into shape, as well as should be, and for that I want to welcome this week's guest, Brian Sparks. He's from England. He teaches all over the world, and we're going to be talking to him now from New Zealand. Brian, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Dick. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Okay, can you explain what the easiest swing in golf is all about?
Well, I think you said it yourself. A lot of golfers are frustrated, and modern teaching has become very, very complicated and complex. And the name of my teaching philosophy, if you like, is positive impact golf. That's how it started about 11 years ago. And it's actually slowly becoming easier swing in golf because I wrote a book called Positive Impact Golf. Then I put a YouTube clip that you've talked about and called it The Easiest Swing in Golf because I've been coaching golf for nearly 50 years. And over that period of time, I've realized that what I was doing was very complicated. So I changed about 30 years ago. And we now, I say we because I have several licensed coaches now who have been trained personally by me. And basically, we've found a lot of easy ways of swinging a golf club. And I think you found it yourself, that it's surprisingly easy, even when you watch my video. And we believe that a lot of the modern coaching is actually making it more difficult for the average golfer, not easier. There's a lot of tension. There's we believe, a lot of misconceptions. And our ethos is making it easier from a learning point of view, from that swinging the club, from playing the different shots. And once you have that ethos of how can we make this game easier for people, then you start to discover things. I've learned a lot from the people I've coached over the years, because I've always felt that golf should be a simple game. And it's certainly not the easiest game in the world. Your listeners will, I'm sure, agree with that. But
Brian,
doesn't have to be so complicated.
Yeah. They watch professional golf tournaments every week, and everyone wants to swing the club like Jordan Spieth, and they want to, if Rory McIlroy can do that, what can I do to be like him? Ricky Fowler, what do I have to do to emulate him? And I think that, look, if you're, on your way to becoming a pro and you're 22 years old, that's one thing. But if you're not, if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, and you play on the weekends when the weather is good, I think there are a lot of misconceptions about the golf swing and about what people do. Can you just briefly outline what some of the misconceptions that you have seen?
One of the biggest misconceptions is about footwork, because if you look at the way the tour pro swing has evolved, they just don't move so much these days. Now, it's okay, as you've just said, if you're young and flexible and you're highly talented and you're working out in the gym, you can actually make a golf swing without moving your feet on the backswing, without turning your body very much, loaded with a hell of a lot of tension, because that's what you see on the television all the time, and you can get away with that. There's a proviso to that, which I'll come back to in a second. But if you're 60 and you've got a dodgy knee and you're waiting for a hip operation, there's no way that you can swing the club like the way the tour pros do. The proviso is that we're beginning to see, because of this static, tension-filled coiling system that they use, they're very static and tense in their golf swings, and yet they're having to hit the ball a hell of a long way. So, to me, those two things don't go together. Standing still and trying to hit the ball a long way is putting your body under a lot of strain, and we're seeing it more and more with back injuries. Tiger Woods is a typical example. His golf swing has given him the physical problems he's had. Danny Willett won the Masters last year. He's been suffering with a bad back. Rory McIlroy. There are more and more injuries, and we've never seen that in the past. So moving your feet as you swing the club back allows you to turn your body comfortably. The golf swing should be comfortable. And unfortunately, I believe that we're being influenced by we all love watching the tournaments on the TV, but we're being influenced down that same road. And unfortunately, a lot of golf teachers are also promoting that type of golf swing. It's the sort of only template they've got. And it just doesn't work, and especially for senior golfers. So one of the things that I do, and my fellow coaches, is we can help senior golfers to prolong their lives, enjoy their golf, and sometimes even play the best golf of their lives when they're well into their 60s and even 70s.
We're talking with Brian Sparks, who is a golf teacher who has a unique way of instructing, not mechanical, nothing to do with getting the club into the right slot, none of those things where you're thinking and really tightening up. One of the things that you say in your positive impact guide, which to me is kind of a Bible of golf. I read it and reread it, and it reinforces things that I believe in. And my golf game has improved so much, and I enjoy the game so much more, is the fact that movement is possible. And you kind of say it's like throwing. It's like throwing a ball. When you throw a ball, you're not stiff. You're moving. And I know you coached in France for a lot of years, and you call it La Danse du Golf. And it is a dance. It's a dance. It is kind of a free-flowing movement. Explain a little bit about that, please.
Well, first of all, the golf swing is a movement. We wouldn't call it a golf swing if it wasn't. So motion and movement are absolutely essential. Unfortunately, if you're trying to keep your head still, keep your feet still, and then turn and coil on the backswing, keeping your arm as straight as you possibly can and get as much width and extension, again, you can't do that. I don't think most people over 50 can do that. And when you look at the percentage of golfers who are over 50 in the world, we're actually making golf very difficult for the biggest population. And golf is a little bit in decline around the world. And I believe this is one of the reasons. So, yes, it's a dancing, moving thing. And the other thing I identified in my book was that tension is the big killer. There are very few relaxed golfers out there. So if you combine movement and relaxation, and of course those are two things that, for example, a great dancer like Fred Astaire had. He moved beautifully, but he was very relaxed in everything he did. If you don't move and you try and twist your shoulders against your hips and create this tension that they say is going to be the most powerful thing in the world, well, all I can tell you is it doesn't work. I've had back problems all my life, and there's absolutely no way I would still be playing golf with that sort of regime.
You talk about the 6 basics now, and I'll say what they are, but people say, well, you know, can I do this? Turning, weight shift, rhythm, balance, coordination, and the last one is suppleness, which you call souplesse, which is the French, again, the French word. So is it something that people need to think about when they're doing all these things, the turning, the weight shift, the rhythm? Is that too much for people to think about when they address the ball?
Yes, yeah. But what La Danse du Golf is, and it's just a very simple little drill where you move your feet and you move everything together back and forward. You can see me doing it on that original video. And what that is it combines all those things into a feeling. Because if you're standing over a golf ball, and you can see this everywhere that golf is played, you see people standing over a golf ball for what seems like an eternity, and they're static, they're not moving, you can tell they're already tense. And of course that means that their brain is trying to work through all the things that they've got to tell each body part to do in a golf swing. As you say, get the club in the slot, get the hands in the slot, keep your swing plane. There's so many things that people are thinking of, but actually you should be standing over the golf ball with a feeling of what to do. And La Danse du Golf actually gives you that feeling.
It's interesting. I think, Brian, that the biggest issue here is tension. And I know that the one thing that I have really, really gained ground in fact, I've kind of eliminated tension. It's almost an I don't care attitude when I'm addressing the ball. And I know that if I don't grip it tightly, then my shoulders will be loose. And I can just let it happen because you can't have movement in tension. So is that the most difficult aspect, relieving the tension?
It's the most difficult, only in a sense. But that really involves letting go of all of the teaching that you've had in the past. Fred Shoemaker, who's a great coach in America, said that in his book, Extraordinary Golf, he said Michelangelo went to a block of marble and took away all that wasn't David. And that's basically what we feel we do. We actually take things away from people and say, actually, you don't have to think about keeping that arm straight. You don't have to try and keep your foot on the ground. You don't have to try and keep your head still. And bit by bit, with a little bit of encouragement, it's amazing how quickly a lot of people can let go of those things and evolve and start to enjoy not only their golf, but the act of swinging a golf club, which is one of the most beautiful things. I think we've all felt that from time to time, that beautiful feeling of everything flowing, everything relaxed, and the ball seems to sing off the club face and go miles without any effort. Because all that tension, all those guys on the tour, they're putting much more effort in than they ever used to. So we actually find that people reduce the amount of effort they're putting into the golf swing. It means that for senior golfers in particular, but I would say virtually everybody, you walk off the golf course and you're not as tired because you haven't been putting in all that effort for 4 hours or whatever.
The attitude that you have to have when you hit bad shots. I play with guys and they will hit a shot that is not bad and they get so mad. A big part of your positive impact book and your philosophy has to do with dealing with adversity on a golf course, which everyone experiences all the time.
Absolutely. In fact, if you look at my book, the first half is all about those misconceptions and about that after golf and movement. And the second half of my book is all about how to cope with bad shots and how to manage yourself and your emotions on a golf course. And I think, unfortunately, people stand on the first tee expecting or hoping, certainly not expecting, hoping that they might play beautifully today and that they won't hit any bad golf shots. Well, unfortunately, I have news for you, and that is I don't think anybody of any standard has ever played 18 holes without hitting a bad shot. So if you stand on the first tee and say, yes, I'm going to hit some bad shots, and I'm not going to let them bother me, because as soon as I get frustrated, that builds more tension. You get into that vicious spiral of tension and frustration. There's certainly no benefits to your game of getting frustrated. So it's something that we work on quite a lot with golfers, is developing that attitude. I actually do a demonstration when I'm coaching groups in particular. At the end of the day, I might just say to them, well, it's been a beautiful day. It's a really nice day to be with you here at whatever golf club we're at. And then I hit a nice golf shot, and I say, yes, it's a really nice day, and especially when you hit balls like that. And then I stand over the next shot, and I say, it's a really nice day. I've really enjoyed being with you all day. And then I hit a poor shot, and they're a bit stunned. I might hit it 10 yards along the ground, and then just walk up to them and I say, it's still a nice day. So developing that attitude, developing good habits, it's marvelous to play the game without worrying about your bad shots. And I think you touched on it earlier. If you can have a sort of a careless attitude towards this game, because most of us are out there caring so much and trying so hard, and that's all counterproductive.
Well, Brian, you and I both know that what people do, and I used to do it, was I would hit a bad shot and I'd say, what did I do wrong here? What did I do wrong?
Yeah, then you've slipped into that self-analysis. And then you're going to go through all of your body parts and your swing plane and did I get too much into out? Did I do this? Did I do that? And that adds to the confusion. If you hit a bad shot and you said, oh, what did I do wrong? And immediately got the perfect answer back, that would be fine. But not only do you not get that, not only do you get more confusion, but you might also, if you say that out loud, you might get your friends giving you some advice as well. And that very rarely helps. So just put a cross against it and walk on. If you look at the top players, they would tend to, I remember Gary Player in particular doing this. He did a poor shot. He'd walk a few yards out the fairway and he'd stop and they'd just keep repeating what he felt he should have done. That's far more helpful than analyzing your bad shots. So, yes, a big part of what we do is help you develop an attitude that says, okay, I'm going to hit bad shots. Doesn't matter. I'm out here with my friends on a Saturday morning. I've had a hard week at work. Let's just enjoy a stress-free round of golf and not create more stress and tension.
Yes. Have there been golfers that you've seen, professional, successful golfers over the years, way back when or even now, who are close to adopting what your philosophy is all about?
Well, certainly if you go back in time and you look at the way people like Bobby Jones swung the club, and further back than that even, to me that was the template that we should be using for golfers today, the average golfers, not the tour players. So there's a study done by Brandel Chambly. He studied the top 50 tournament winners on the PGA Tour of all time and found that 47 of them, the heel came off the ground on the backswing. So that's the left heel for a right-hander or the right heel for a left-hander. And actually, a lot of those are modern golfers. You've got Tom Watson, Jack Nicklaus. Today you've got Phil Mickelson. You've got Bubba Watson. So why has this been so much outlawed? So I think that we've lost our way in teaching purely because the only template we have is the modern tour player, who I can assure you, having played the circuit myself many, many years ago, these guys are different animals to most of us. So trying to copy them is just a non-starter as far as I'm concerned. And as I said, you've got so many injuries. If Tiger could only just learn to relax and play within himself, because he always looks like he's trying to hit the ball further than anybody else. So, and we've all had an experience where we just, I'll just lay up. So I'll just hit a nice quiet 7-iron. And you hit this nice quiet 7-iron and it takes off and goes further than you've ever hit it. So we should be learning from the people of the past. Have a look in YouTube's marvelous. You can go on there. If you look at some of the older swings and look how simple they were. Then look at the modern swing and look at modern teaching, and you'll see how complicated it is. And then have a look at my video, and basically, you may recall that my video doesn't have any speech. I just swing a few times and let people look at it and make up their own mind. I would just suggest to people that they should have a look back in history and make up their own mind. That I will admit at the moment that there aren't a huge number of tour players playing like this, but if they keep going the way they're going, then the number of injuries is going to be ever increasing. So I believe that one day, because I totally believe that a good player who adopts this would also find that it's very efficient, it works, it's as powerful. Can you think of a baseball batter who doesn't move, a baseball pitcher who doesn't move? It would be ridiculous. So my thoughts are very much based on simple human movement, and I just think that we've lost our way.
Brian, where and exactly when did you find this?
Well, it all started because I was a very technical teacher as well. I was a swing instructor and examiner with the British PGA. I was towards the top of my profession. And then one day I was playing with a young assistant of mine who was a particularly good player. I noticed that his heel came up off the ground. And I'd coached him since he was 13 years old. I said, Charlie, what are you doing? Your heel's coming off the ground. And he said, well, if I don't do that, I can't do everything else that you want me to do. I can't turn, I can't transfer my weight. And we had a little discussion about it. We were actually on the golf course. And on the next hole, he said, why didn't you have a go yourself? And I let my heel move off the ground for the first time in my life. And I'd been playing golf for 20 years at that time. And I felt comfortable. I hit the ball further. And what that did for me, I then started looking at golf and thinking, well, nobody's moving their feet. So, but what it really did for me was it helped me to question the rules that I'd been teaching by. And I realized that that was false. So I started to question everything else. But over a long period of time, I would now question everything that we are taught, the rules we play by, and I believe that everybody can improve. I believe that the golfer in front of me can do better. And very often it's a question of finding out what rules he's playing to, what rules he's swinging to, and in so doing, people can appreciate a different way of doing it that is immediately easier. Because one of the things that we suffer from in golf, in the industry of golf teaching, is that people very often don't take lessons because they're frightened they're going to get worse before they get better. Mm-hmm. And for example, Dick, would it be your experience that you actually got better fairly quickly?
No, I didn't get better at all, actually, because it was so complicated. It made me think of things that I had to do. And the great thing that I have found in your teaching is that it's not about thinking. It's about just doing the things, being relaxed. Turn. I mean, and there's a lot of things that I've learned from this, and it's worked for me. I think that you're right. Teaching has made this game a lot more complicated, and people go out and practice, and they go out to the range, and you have a great phrase. And, we're talking to Brian Sparks, by the way. It was a unique way of teaching golf. So all you frustrated golfers, just take a look at what Brian is teaching. We're going to tell you at the end on the best way to find it and where to go about it. And your mantra is practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent.
Absolutely. So you're having your head filled with all these things. You're getting it when you have a golf lesson. You're getting it when you're watching golf on the TV because they keep analyzing people's swings. You get it when you read the golf magazines, and you get it in a lot of golf books. So you get out on the golf course and you've got your head so full. Wow. And so my question to you a moment ago was, did you find that using the easiest swing in golf, did you have to get worse before you got better? Or did you find that actually it started working quite quickly?
Well, for me, it worked quickly.
I think what you're saying is yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, without question.
Yeah.
I mean, it happened very soon. And I know that the great thing, Brian, is that, people can send videos to you and they can actually learn a lot of this long distance. They don't have to, see you personally, although, I have. And it was a great experience. But you can analyze this and, basically this has been a very interesting thing for me. I know golf is specialized around the world and in this country, and those who are listening who play golf, they ought to, take note of Brian Sparks. And Brian, great to have you with us today. Again, it's Positive Impact Golf. I found it by Googling easiest swing in golf, and you're going to love it. And so, Brian, thank you for being with us. You're in New Zealand. I happen to be in Florida. Long way to go, but we connected, and it's a great pleasure for me.
It's wonderful how modern, how many things we can do in the modern world. And yeah, I coached you a little bit online, and then you came over and we met. Just one thing that, if I can say to finish off with, is that
Sure.
We need a revolution in golf, because all those poor people out there suffering needlessly. And I've got some licensed coaches, and if we could find some people in the States, some qualified coaches who are interested in this, then we can help grow this thing and make golf a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable for a lot more people. And that's my passion.
Well, you're doing well with it, and you're going to do better. And I appreciate you coming on our podcast. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Dick. It's been a pleasure.
Take care.
Okay. Bye. Thanks a lot.
Okay, now it's time for taking stock. And since we've been talking golf, let's complete our swing with thoughts on two subjects. As all sports followers probably realize, this is the week of the Masters in Augusta, the first of the four majors. The first big news was that Tiger Woods was not ready to play because of back problems. It's the third time in 4 years that the four-time champ hasn't played Augusta. In the past, that news would dampen the anticipation of the Masters. Not totally, of course, because that great spectacle transcends the appearance of any player. But there was always the question, can anybody beat Tiger? Well, this year's Masters is filled with a group of young, brilliant golfers. Jordan Spieth, for example, is out to win his second green jacket in 3 years. But there are others, as you know, like the red-hot Dustin Johnson, and those named McIlroy, Fowler, and Day, who would be a wonderful story considering his mom's cancer surgery. A few older ones like Scott, Watson, and Reed, and a few older still like Mickelson and Garcia. It should be tough for a newcomer, but watch John Rahm. Now, Hideki Matsuyama looms as well as Justin Rose and Patrick Reed, and I could go on and on. The message here is it'll be exciting for sure because there are so many familiar names who are good enough to win. It's a deep field indeed, maybe one of the deepest ever for quality championship contenders, so it should be a terrific leaderboard. The other subject rankles anyone who follows any sport. Lexi Thompson was robbed of a chance to win an LPGA event in Rancho Mirage because of viewer email video info that Lexi committed a violation in marking her ball in Saturday's second round. She wasn't informed till she was leading by 3 strokes with 6 to play in Sunday's final round. She was in tears, lost her composure, and eventually lost to So-Yeon Ryu in a playoff. I'll make this fast. The LPGA should be embarrassed to allow a spectator of any kind to determine the outcome of an event. The practice of even allowing anyone other than an official or the player themselves to reveal a violation is unconscionable. Tiger Woods himself tweeted his disdain, but we didn't really need his output. Anyone with common sense would know this practice is bad. It should never happen again. And I wonder why no declaration has come forth already from all of golf's commissioners to put an end to what transpired at Rancho Mirage. What are they waiting for? So that's our taking stock for this week. And that's it for this episode of Stockton. I want to thank, again, Brian Sparks for coming on to talk about his golf philosophy. I also want to thank my producer, Peter Lyon, and our sound engineer, Scott Person, for their help with this episode. Once again, a reminder to email us at info@stocktonpodcast.com. Once again, info@stocktonpodcast.com. Stockton is produced by Collisions, the podcast division of CRN International. Collisions, podcasts for curious people. I'm Dick Stockton. So long, everyone.